Why'd you put your journey to a rich life underneath the title?
That was the whole idea, like that hero's journey. I want to really emphasize that and make it clear too, like richer doesn't always mean more money, but it could.
Daddy, can I play the music now? Where did we go?
You know that I got love for my kinfolk, my blood. Through the thick and thin, we hit no matter.
This is me and Daddy here, and Jenny also. And we're here to teach you something, founded by So Your Grind. And goes a little something like this. Take it over, Daddy.
Welcome to Family Abide, Show Your Grind. This is a podcast series highlighting lessons learned by the hard knocks and by grace. My name is Robert E. Metzger Jr. and my co-host is Divine Lee, aka Delisle. Our podcast intersects between the culture, faith, family, and finance.
Welcome, Mr. David Delisle, to Family Abide. My name is Divine in Dad's Journey, and we have some questions for you.
So excited to be here, guys.
So my question is, why do you want to make this book?
Such a great question. So I love talking about finances and money and financial literacy, but I know a lot of kids don't love learning about it. Not like me, they're not money nerds like I am, but what they do love is graphic novels and comic books. So I want to combine my passion with graphic novels and comic books with kids' passions so we can start teaching this to kids and make it really fun.
That's a good answer. All right. Jenny, you have any other questions you want to ask before your sister asks questions?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. And if you can think about it and we can come back to you. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Divine, go ahead. Don't forget to speak into the mic, Divine.
My questions are, where did you come up with the idea?
So that's sort of a fun one. So I'm a dad. So for me, I was just going to teach my kids these lessons. It wasn't going to be very fun. It was just like, here's some stuff I want to teach you. But I was in my older son's school, library, volunteering. And I was watching all the kids reading graphic novels and getting excited about it. And almost instantly, the whole thing started coming together where I could picture like this fun adventure, make it a journey, start talking about these lessons. So that idea, watching those kids reading those graphic novels, actually came pretty fast once I saw how much fun they're having reading these books.
My second question is, who taught you about money?
So it's funny, I didn't learn it from my parents. I was always a bit of a money nerd. And I remember learning about just interest at a bank. So if I put money in a bank, I'd earn interest, I get a little bit more money back for doing nothing. And that got me really excited about just this idea of like money making money. And so I read books when I was about 10 or 11. And one that I really loved, and it's really big in Canada, is called The Wealthy Barber by David Chilton. So I read it when I was about 10, 11, and during his original book tour when it came out. And that really started teaching me a lot of stuff about compound growth, the power of, the time value of money, all these little concepts. And that's how I started. But a lot of it's self-taught.
My other question is, why do they put presidents on money?
Interesting. I really don't know. That's interesting. So in Canada, we have the Queen or the King on money, which is interesting because we're part of the Commonwealth. So I think a lot of times, I'm guessing it goes back to like Roman times when currency started. It was the leaders or the people in charge who sort of put their crest associated with money, but I don't know for sure. That's a good question. Who do you think we should put if we didn't put presidents?
People, um, people who are very famous
Hmm.
Famous in what way?
in anyway.
Oh, well, presidents are famous. Yeah. Or you could put like some things you put like symbols.
Like dancing and singing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know sometimes we
The
see
slip.
they're starting to add like scientists and authors or people who have done different social things. We're starting to add some of them on money. But yeah, it's a good question.
All right, go ahead, Patricia. This is
My last question is, how did you come up with a book that that has fun and can learn?
Hmm. So I mean, I love kids. I've always loved kids, and I feel like I'm a bit of a kid myself. So it wasn't that hard. I just sort of thought, what would I want to read? What do I think is fun? How do I make this easy? But I did find, because again, like I said, I'm a bit of a money nerd. So I tried to just take away as much of the stuff that didn't matter as I could. So if you notice in the book, there's not anything about, there's no math, there's not anything about like macroeconomics or a lot of how-tos, because the reality is that's not as important. So I pulled anything that wasn't important and would take away and just kept the good stuff and try to make it fun. But even then, I'm starting to learn a lot more with some of my writer friends on how I could make it even more fun second time around.
I want to ask one more question. How'd you come up with the title?
The title, it was a trickier one. Originally, so I wanted to make it an adventure. And that's where I started thinking of the word quests. And I was trying to think of, what's a way we could think about money and gold and things like that is a way we think about money. But I wanted to make it so it wasn't just about money. So that's why I sort of came up with it. But it's really neat because as I wrote it, I didn't really fully realize until a friend who's a writer talked to me about it. It's got this hero's journey theme. So do you guys like Star Wars?
I
A little bit?
what's your favorite cartoon or comic?
Pokemon.
Pokemon, yeah.
Oh, so yeah, so the same thing. So the same thing. Is it Ash in Pokemon? And so he actually goes on a hero's journey. So classic hero's journey, they start at the beginning, they don't have all the answers, they start going along the journey, mentors come and talk to them and they change and they learn. By the very end of the journey, they're a whole different person. It's this big story arc of this hero's journey and this classic hero's journey. So with that, the Golden Quest, I was hoping to sort of capture a bit of that essence of like this journey and the focus on the journey, not the very end destination.
And my last question is, why'd you put your journey to a rich life underneath the title?
That was the whole idea, like that hero's journey. I want to really emphasize that and make it clear too, like richer doesn't always mean more money, but it could. But just richer in general, a more rich life. Now, I will say on the current version, I tweaked it a little bit because I realized I don't love rich life as much as richer life because we all have a rich life. So I changed it so it's richer in the newer versions.
Is this book is this book fiction or nonfiction?
It'd be fiction. Yeah. Well, a little bit of both, but yeah, it's definitely fiction. Although I would love if there were stone whales in real life.
So he probably pulled like from examples in his real life to kind of build on that and then make it a little bit more maybe entertaining to capture your interest.
But how'd you come up with the rules? Like rule number 1 and 2 and 3. So are all these real or not real?
Okay, let me answer. Go ahead.
I'll start with the first one, then we'll go to the second one. So the rules, again, there's actually supposed to be 5 rules originally because I just thought I like the number 5. But as I try to make it simpler and simpler and simpler and thought back on my own life, so I've been investing for over 20 years. Like I said, I started when I was 10. So it's over 30 years, I guess, now. And I was trying to think of what's really important. What are the few things, the few habits that would make a difference for kids and adults? And that's what I came up with. Like really all that comes down to those 4 things. If you manage those 4 things, it doesn't matter how old you are, when you start investing, what you're doing, those 4 things are the essence in my mind of what you need to sort of achieve financial freedom and that richer life.
Did you draw the pictures in the book?
No, I found an illustrator named Travis Hansen. And so he did all the illustrations with me, which was such a fun process. So a lot of these characters, I described what I was trying to create, and then he would run with it. And there's definitely things in there that he saw that I didn't see. And as it started to come to life, it was like seeing it come to life for myself as well.
Those are great questions, Divine. You probably
Yeah.
didn't think you was going to ask all those questions. All right. So you want to just stick around? I'm gonna ask some questions, and if you want to ask some other questions or something comes up while I'm talking, then feel free to jump in. Is that good? And if you want to go ahead and do something else too, that's okay too, okay? All right, cool. So thank you. We're here with David Delisle, the author of The Awesome Stuff. And we first met in FinCon probably about 2 years now ago. And was that your first FinCon or was that?
Yeah, that was my first. The one in Florida was my first FinCon. Yeah.
Yeah. Really enjoyed it. I don't know. I guess maybe they always say you remember your first, but I really enjoyed that first one. So, but got to get to know you a little bit more, and one of the important things was really teaching financial principles and financial literacy and entrepreneurship to our daughters. And your book has been really good in just engaging them. We read it to them at night. Or actually, at first I was reading it to them, but Divine started to become a better reader, and she's actually started reading more of it herself. So that's also interesting, just seeing that progression. But just got a few questions to go through kind of what you've already talked about. What was your first defining experience with money and investing?
Hmm. I mean, like Divine was asking some of these things, how I started with money and what like where I learned it from. A lot of it was self-taught, but I remember, and I think this is what I noticed with a lot of people who get excited about financial literacy in general, just learn about compound growth in general. Because I was reading these books when I was like 10 or 11. The idea that money could grow that much over these long periods of time, and I had time on my side because I was so young, really did start getting me pretty excited about seeing like, okay, even at these regular like 5, 7% interest rates, that compounded ends up to be a lot 10, 20, 30 years down the road. So those were some of my early things.
And just basing off of that, how did you get into that? I know you said that your parents didn't necessarily, break it down, or how did you end up knowing that you like conversations about money and financial literacy? And how did you personally, as a child, start to look into that? Because they probably didn't have a lot of children books at that time.
Zero children books. They were all adult books. And my parents weren't really into finance, or they weren't teaching me a lot of this stuff either. So it's interesting. Now I thought I just came upon it on my own, but I think just like we usually notice, if we go back, we notice how much we're learning from our parents, even when they're not teaching us something.
Mhm.
And I noticed that my dad, and this is again on reflection, I didn't really make this connection when I was younger, but my dad, like he did not like his job. He was in a job he didn't love, and he worked hard, he played hard, and he saw work as something you don't love, you just do.
Mhm.
And so I think even at that early age, I just felt like, wow, like there had to be another way. And once I started learning that, hey, your money could make money and there's other ways to create money, and maybe it's not doing something you don't love, I started getting more interested in it. And for me, it's always been money as a tool, not what it could buy, but what it could earn and the freedom it can create. So even at a young age, people thought that I was really into money because I wanted to have a whole bunch, but that was never the case. It was really to create that freedom and let money carry some of the heavy lifting, or do some of the heavy lifting, so I didn't have to do something I didn't love. And now because of that, I can pursue something like this passion that I really do love, and not be concerned about, the immediate return on anything I'm doing.
So you kind of brought up a couple good points. But what kind of building off that, what is the rich life, or as you said, the richer life for you?
For me, I mean, so much of it, like I really talk about money mindfulness and the awesome stuff and noticing what brings you joy. And that is the rich, like I've sort of always felt it, but even more so now because I'm talking about it all the time because it evolves. Like really it is that awareness and being present. You start noticing all the little joys around you, how colorful the world is, how much light there is, how much excitement, how much just exciting things are all around. And that's why even when Divine was asking about the title, I want to really emphasize it's the journey, not the destination. Like that's the rich life. It's noticing all like stopping and smelling the roses. I don't love how, that term necessarily because it's just so common, but like that really is the essence is stop, smell the roses, notice everything around you.
Mhm.
That's the rich life. And the more I do this, the more I notice the things that really make me happy. And they're so simple. It's, laughter with friends, it's connection, it's seeing my boys smile. Like it's just these simple things. And the more you notice those and are aware of them and stop, the richer your life.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a couple great points. I think, just in general, we're so caught up with our daily means going, trying to get to work. It's hard to enjoy the moment, even though it is, it's a blessing, but uh we just pulling one hand in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, and we kind of gets lost in the moment. What are some of the best strategies for parents to help kids develop their relationship with personal finance? You were able to kind of develop it for yourself, but now being the parent, how do you develop those skill sets? How do you cultivate that in children?
Yeah, so it's really quite simple. I think the problem is a lot of us think we need to teach people how to invest or get in the stock market and all these things like, risk and interest rates and macroeconomics and how that stuff just doesn't really matter as much. It's having the conversation we're having now, just letting kids hear you talk about money and make it so it's not this taboo thing. That in itself is so, so simple. And then one of my favorite tips I talk about all the time, because this is when like kids are really young. People are like, how do we teach kids when they're young? I would put things in terms of chocolate bars and Lego sets for my kids because that was their awesome stuff. And so if they wanted something, I would tell them this teddy bear is going to cost 10 chocolate bars. This bike's going to cost 3 Lego sets. And in their mind, they could start seeing the connection, the value of money. And if the thing they wanted wasn't better than chocolate or Lego sets, then they no longer wanted it. And so it just started building a little bit of that awareness in such a fun, easy, simple way. Like that's all it takes. Because I mean, the value of money is just choice, understanding what money can buy, and then that evolves. As kids, it's going to be chocolate bars and Lego sets. As adults, it's going to start becoming things like freedom and time with family and helping loved ones or things of that nature. So it'll just evolve, but it's noticing what money can buy instead.
Mm-hmm.
That's really financial literacy in a nutshell.
Mm. Um, your interaction, now as a parent, what did you, hold on a second, Divine Journey, as a parent. So now as a parent, what I know a lot of times we try to impart the lessons to our children about financial literacy or just about life. What have you, what have your children taught you, or what have you learned by teaching personal finance to younger people or to parents or to kids?
So, I mean, so many things. Like one of the big ones I've really noticed because my older son, he's 14, he's a teenager.
Mhm.
So he's getting older, and I'm noticing like I try not to talk so much about the stuff that he ends up, just wanting to ignore anything to do with finance.
Mhm.
But I am, instilling a lot of these values. But for him, he's still a spender, and
Mhm.
he's always going to be a spender. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter what I try to teach him or what he knows, he's always going to be a spender. And so that's something I've really been noticing that the fact that he's a spender and that's who he is, we need to start embracing that a little bit more. So
Mhm.
rather than shaming it and saying spenders are bad, savers are good, embracing and knowing, okay, you're a spender, that's fine. That's who you are. Because we can still create these little habits, save first, and you can still create that financial freedom. You can still have the savings you need to do. You can still stay out of debt, but whatever's left over, you can spend. So he's the type, like if I give him $20 and he went to the mall, he will come back with $0. He can't help himself. If I
Mhm.
gave him $50, he'd come back with zero. If I gave him nothing, he'd be fine and he'd still come back with zero. So knowing that, and that's who he is, I can give him now 20 and say, look, instead of giving you 20, we're gonna take 20% from that, take $2, save it, and you've got 18 to spend. So when you go and spend 18, you can spend it without any shame, without any judgment, and you've still already had that saving looked after. You can be who you are, and we just, stop shaming our spender. So that's what I've learned because I mean I'm a saver. So
Mhm.
it's neat for me to see get inside the mind of a spender because most of us are
Mhm.
spenders and there's nothing wrong with that.
And I think that you raise a very good point too, because I think awareness of where you at or where you are helps you develop a game plan. So if you're a spender, then if I know that, well, let me at least spend things on the things that I really want instead of spending it
Hmm.
on just anything. And that could even help you a little bit. Because sometimes to tell people they just can't spend money or whatever, it becomes very restricting, and that's not what the point of budgeting is. All right, Divine says she has one more question. Go ahead, Divine.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Speaking to the mic. All right, go ahead.
Why'd you have to save first and then spend?
Oh, so that's exactly what we were just talking about. And the reason it's so important is because some people, but very few people, are able to budget and save after. Most people, they spend the money they have. And that's the whole point is if you're going to spend the money you have, let's save first so then you can spend what you have left over and not worry about it. And it's really making saving your priority and the most important thing and making sure that always happens. And it sort of puts a ceiling on your how much you're going to spend because you've already done the saving. And and it really is one of those things where I haven't seen anything that works better to create savings than saving first. It's the easiest way.
Mm, good. So, what is one thing you would tell your younger self or your child to do with money? What do you want your what would you want your children's relationship with money to be? Because I think that relationship with money can always be different. I know my wife, she's a saver, but I think it's out of a fear mentality. And that
Mhm.
relationship with money is almost for like I think she has a almost a traumatic relationship with money, but she's a saver, but it's because she's scared. How do you create relationships with money so people feel healthy with spending or with saving or either or?
Mhm. Really good question. That's where for me, the more, and came out to the book as well, like the more I noticed and thought about it, like I think about money a lot. Like I've always been reading these finance books. I think about money, and it creates a lot of, you know, maybe not anxiety, but just there's a lot of headspace going towards investing and budgeting and how much things cost. And to me, the goal of the book, like really, even when we think of, a richer life, a lot of it for me is to get to a point where money is not something you think about at all.
Mm,
So you create the financial freedom so you're not worried. You have the healthy mindset so you're not chasing more. You, your choices aren't dictated by how much things can cost, but how much they enrich your life.
mm,
And all of a sudden money fades into the background. To me, that's the goal. And to achieve that, you start to, set up these habits. So it's just simple. Like that saving habit's going to create the compound growth. It's going to create the financial freedom and have your money working for you. The mindset piece on the awesome stuff is going to get it so you notice those things that really do make you happy and realize how many of the things we think will make us happy don't. And so you stop chasing them. You start focusing on the little things, communication, like community, friends, family, health, giving. And so that's how I think like the relationship with money, if we start thinking about it too much and stressing about it, that's when we start getting these things all messed up. That's why I mentioned we need to stop shaming our spenders because there's so much of this like this is good, this is bad, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do. We're all a little bit different. So instead of having this black and white, just a little bit more awareness, a little bit more conversation, a little bit more, grace and understanding and, empathy, I think will allow all of us to have a better relationship with money.
Mhm. This has been really good so far. So, a couple more questions, and we'll let you go. Do you have any verse or quotes or something that you feel that has been important? It could be money related, it could not be money related, it could just be life related that you felt has kind of helped you or set a path or kind of reminded you to align yourself um with your values.
Mm. So, I mean, I've got many. One that I live by quite a bit is the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. And that's just like a ratio, noticing how, say, for example, if it's an 80-20, you could look at it like, say, friendships.
Mhm.
80% of your happiness comes from 20% of your friends. Or it could be even your income. 80% of your income comes from 20% of your activities. It's just these little ratios. But what I like about it is I use that to figure out pretty much what my awesome stuff is in all walks of life, and really try to see what are the things that give me the most bang for the buck. What are the things that really light me up versus other things? Because our days are so long, there's so many things happening, we're so busy that a lot of it can just be noise. And so I try to notice those few little pinpricks of light that are like my highlights, my memories, the things that really make me smile and stick with me. And for me, thinking in terms of this 80-20 ratio, it allows me to sort of do that a little bit better.
Okay. Another question is just a little bit about your background. I know that you, hold on a second. Journey, you have a question you want to ask? Okay, go ahead. Speaking to the mic.
Why did you make so much pages in the book?
Well, I wanted to make it a big, long, fun adventure. Like the idea is I wanted something that you don't just read right away. In a perfect world, you would read it with your parents, you'd read a chapter at a time and then talk about it. So you'd read a few pages and then talk about it, talk about all the different lessons, the awesome stuff, the saving first, the sending your money to work, the giving, the freedom at the end, and have those conversations. So I wanted to be something that you could sit with and reread and get through. Also, some of this stuff, it takes a little while to really get the point across so that it sticks.
Mhm. I think that's a great point. I think uh you have another question? Yeah, but I was just gonna say, I think, just depending on the age group, because I have she was probably about 4 and 6 when we started reading the book. Well, you're 6 right now, you're 4, or maybe even 3 and 5. But I think it's perfect for a developing reader. So like, maybe first, second, third grade. Younger kids, and it's, generally speaking, they I think like to complete books. So you start a book, and if you don't complete the book, it's like, why didn't we complete the book? Because obviously we can't read the whole book at the time. But but it does give you things to think about. So I do like how we would normally try to stop when we got to like a principle. So like we'll go and it's like, okay, this is a good place to stop. And you have a couple of chapters in there, and then we'll kind of pick back up. And sometimes we would go back and read a little bit before we went on to the next chapter. But yeah, it's just different. I think it's just different for different age groups. But I think everyone enjoyed it, but it's definitely, you can see how maybe like developing readers will progress with it compared to people like to a little bit of a younger child. But I think they still get the concepts, especially like, oh, like always say first. Like that's a concept that you don't have to be 15 or 12 to understand. You can understand that even as a 3 and 4 year old. So
Yeah.
go ahead, Tamara. We're gonna speak it to you.
Um, are you ever gonna make another book?
Maybe. I've had a lot of people ask me about that. And I've got a few ideas. I've got an idea of a adult version of this, similar story, similar concept, but like a adult paperback version. I've got some cards that I'm wanting to have attached with the book for learning and inspiring conversations and getting kids to think a little bit more about the lessons in the book. And then I've also got an idea for a book around mindfulness
Mm.
that's this is something I'd love to do as well. But there's so many projects. I mean, I'm sure it'll happen. It's just nothing's in the works yet.
Do you think the book is gonna be pretty slim? Do you think the book is gonna be similar as the awesome stuff?
I'd like it to be very similar. I'd love to use the same illustrator. I'd love to make it the same concept. I've got some great ideas around it. So again, it just depends on, the timing and making sure that Travis as well. I mean, Travis Hansen is extremely busy, so I'd want to make sure he'd be able to collaborate as well. But I'd love to be able to do another collaboration with him to make something very similar.
When you were going through the initial stages of the book, did you have an idea how long you wanted it to be or how short? Did you kind of struggle like, maybe I should make this shorter or I should make it longer, especially with a kid's book? How was that process?
Yeah, I mean, originally in my mind, it was a little bit shorter, but I just found once you started writing it out, it just got longer and longer. And we added a lot of pages as well. Like for me, I this is my first book, so the whole story arc itself, I tried to rush it. I just tried to like teach concepts, concepts, concepts. But I mean, a lot of the fun in the book is that journey and seeing a bit more of a struggle and seeing stuff that isn't necessarily a direct lesson, but just part of that journey and what the young boy was encountering. So we kept adding pages to create a bit more, drama, a bit more of a story arc. And so it probably is about 25% longer than it was planned to be.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think, and that's life. Sometimes you have certain things planned a certain way, then it progresses, and it changes, or morphs, and but that's good to kind of just get that insight into it. Let me know if I did ask this question. I don't think I did, but it was on my mind. I'm getting interrupted, but your progression from somebody who was curious about money as a child, how was that progression through high school, then through post high school, secondary, and then ultimately into your working phase? How did that maturation process develop, especially in regards to just your wants, your needs, and then also your relationship with money?
Yeah, a lot of it, I mean, a lot of it looking back, I realized how much I overcomplicated things just
Mm.
in terms of investing in general. I love investing, I love real estate. I was reading different finance books and specifics on it because this is pre-internet. I mean, I'm in my late 40s now. So when I was doing this is way before the internet. And so the research was a little bit different. And I found that I really did overcomplicate things, whereas now it can be so much simpler. I mean, we can invest in an ETF, which invest in the entire stock market and not touch it and just let it be. And so a lot of that progression has been trying to find ways to simplify so I don't think about money as much or the investment side of it. And so that definitely changed. And then also a lot of it too. I had kids in my 30s. That's where my young boys were born and got married in my early 20s. So like all these different little milestones really change your finances and your priorities. And and there was definitely moments where I I wasn't earning as much as I was spending. So these phases where I'd have to sort of project like, is this something that's going to happen forever? Is this a situational thing? What can I do to fix it? So yeah, there's a lot of ups and downs. And then now where I am now, uh, my big goal is just creating more and more freedom so I can have more time with my
Did
kids
you
and
did you initially get into like the real estate investing right after high school, or like how did that like process kind of just, or did you go to college, or how was that?
so early, yeah, like I would have purchased my first home fairly soon after high school while I was still going to university.
And how
And
radical of an idea was that at the time? Because most people are like, oh, I'm 19, 20 years old, you're buying a home. Did you get pushback, or were people like, why are you doing that?
yeah, I mean, people, and I still get pushback. I mean, I mean, I'm investing in land in foreign countries right now. I get all sorts of pushback from people. But for me, I always could see money as a tool. And so when you see it as a tool and you see what it can earn rather than what it can buy, it just shifts a lot of that. And I could see these places that if I bought this place, I'm going to be spending rent anyway, and they're going to have roommates anyway who are also going to be spending rent. So I could combine the two to make this into a bit of a profitable endeavor, then it's fine. And I think when it came to real estate as well, like and I try to tell people now because people feel like if you get a mortgage, like you now owe this money for your entire life and you got this massive debt. But real estate's real estate. Like you can sell it anytime.
Hmm.
So just because I bought a place, like if it didn't work out, I always felt that I'd sell it. And maybe I'd take a loss a bit, but it wasn't like this thing where, now all of a sudden I'm out all this money, I owe it for the rest of my life, I'm stuck, and I'm stuck in that location, I'm stuck in that house. No, you can move. You can
Hmm.
sell a place. And so if you start realizing that money is a tool and it doesn't lock you in, it opens up a lot of possibilities.
That is something that I would definitely, and I wouldn't even fathom it, but if I could, during that college era, I would definitely would have purchased a home if I even thought about it. But I didn't even think that was a possibility. If you're going to spend money or whatnot, because those homes that we would have purchased, you would have been making multiplying, and then also you can rent it out. Like, you get a house and then you rent it out with. So that's actually something that I would consider for them if they were going off to school. But like, all right, you can stay on the door. Hey, do you guys want to just buy a house in this area and then, find some roommates and, we can kind of go from there. So, that is something that I don't know. It's something that you had it innately. I don't, but I think a lot of times some people have to plant that seed in you to kind of open that up. And then
Yeah.
just kind of as a household, how did you talked about your different milestones, whether it's having children, getting married. How did that progression um with a family? Like, you're a saver. Is your spouse a saver? Is she a spender? How did you guys kind of develop a plan for the household with money, especially when it's two
Yeah,
people.
it is a little bit trickier. I mean, definitely, uh, we had different views on money and investing and risk. Overall, we were on the same page, which helped. But
Mhm.
yeah, it does make it tricky. And that's where these conversations, just having conversations about money and understanding it is so important. And a lot of times too, that education allows you to see. So if people see money differently. Like for me, I see money today differently than I will 10 years from now. So
Mhm.
if I'm looking at something on sale for, $100, I look at $100 as potentially earning me, $7, $10 indefinitely for the rest of my life, or doubling every 7 or 10 years. So back to those chocolate bars and Lego sets, when I'm looking to buy something, I've got something else in my mind of what it equals that purchase. And and not everyone can see that the same way. So having those conversations really helps that.
Do you have, so through the process of making this book and doing some other things, do you have some overarching principles that you would like to, I would say two different groups. So you have, what are some overarching principles just for the kids or children who have those years to, I guess, is their greatest asset to leverage, to multiply, to put their savings to work. I think it's that number three. Um,
Hmm.
and then what is your parting words of advice for parents to have those conversations and those with kids about money, and particularly so for a lot of parents who may not be as financially astute. Um,
Hmm.
as some kids who may be coming up or maybe have had made some financial errors.
Yeah, well, and with the parents who aren't maybe are as a like that's I really, really want to take away a lot of the taboo around money and the shame around it and the insecurity around it and make it so we can just talk about it. And even as a parent, you could be like, hey, like I don't know how to invest. I didn't learn this stuff. Why don't we go to a bank? We talk to an advisor there and get some advice from them. Like that should be something that we can sort of do and not worry about. And those habits, then you can go in and you can start seeing what your money will grow to with compound growth and seeing some of those things, which is amazing. Like that's where you start seeing it really doubling for a young child. That's how to create wealth, not these real quick ways to double your money in a year. No, it's consistently earning over a long period of time. I mean, that's Warren Buffett is a perfect example of someone who has consistently earned for a long period of time. And that's who he's created the wealth he has. It's by how old he is and how long he's been investing. I mean, that's a lot of it. It's not by his performance, as great as it has been. It's really by how long he's been in the market doing what he's been doing.
So that was good for your parents. And then I guess that was both a little bit. And then just for children who are learning these concepts, why should they be interested in entrepreneurship or financial literacy or money? You know, a lot of people say, well, I don't know, that's a whole bunch of math. That stuff may not, help me. I just know I gotta go to work and, pay the bills.
Yeah, it's so in the book as well, that's what I was trying to create. So at the beginning, most kids are looking at what money can buy. And the little boy was looking at what money could buy. And he's all excited about all the stuff he could buy if he found this big treasure. And then on this hero's journey, he gets to the end, he's like, I don't care about all these things I can buy. So why did I even go on this journey? And that's when he learns the whole point is to create more freedom for the things that you love, your awesome stuff. So if you start thinking about money, not in terms of what it can buy, but what it can earn, then you can see that if your money can earn for you, it creates more freedom. And that doesn't mean you never have to work. It means you just have more freedom of choice. You can help people out. Maybe you can work at a job that doesn't make as much. Maybe you can do the things you love. Maybe you can take a year off to travel. Or maybe it does mean you don't work. But that freedom that money can give you, to me, that's the end goal. And that's for even young kids. They might not fully get that, but if they understood, like, hey, you start doing these things, and when you're older, you'll have the freedom to do all the things you love. And then you start talking about what do they love to do. That's the whole idea of the awesome stuff. It's going to be different for everyone. Some will want to spend time with friends. Some will want to go to the beach. Some will travel. Some will want to help people out. It's going to be different for everyone. But even young kids can start to see if they had more freedom, what would they do with that freedom?
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much, David Delisle. Can you just give the people where they can find you, where they can find your book and your social media?
Oh yeah, for sure. So my book and everything to do with me is around that concept of the awesome stuff. So you go to theawesomestuff.com, or you go on Instagram or TikTok, it's at the awesome stuff. You'll be able to find me. The book is called The Golden Quest, and you can get it on Amazon or at the Awesome Stuff or in your local bookstores. It's available everywhere. And then I'm also doing speaking as well. So daviddelisle.com, and you can book me to come in and speak.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I'm glad we were able to get you in, and I really appreciate it. I think this was a good interview, and I think even the kids got some good info and questions answered.
It's so great. Thanks so much, Robert. And I love talking to your daughters as well. That was so much fun. So thank you.
Time. On Family by Daddy, Jody, and Devon and Mommy.
Okay.
And Mommy.
Who's got my back?
I got Chopper.
Who's got my back?
Who got that swag?
Who got that swag?
I got that swag. I work it off.
Okay.
Purpose to make this life worth it. Through the joy and pain, you gotta keep searching. Living life, no regrets. Ain't no shoulda, woulda, coulda, had an altar. Still been a minute since I've been up at the altar.
Thank you for listening to Family Abide. Make sure to subscribe in order to catch future episodes. Family Abide is available on all your favorite podcast outlets. Remember, life is not just about family. It's not just about wealth. It's about building people and communities that endure without yielding. Always choose your abundance beyond insecurities, debts, and entanglements. The next generation is depending on it. Remember your purpose. Sow your grind and watch it grow. Thank you for joining us on Family Abide.
So your grind.
I'm tired of my problems, I'm tired of the drama, I'm tired of the pressure from my mama and my papa. I'm tired of the pain, I'm tired of the rain, I'm tired of the hurting, I'm tired of the working, I'm tired of the struggling, I'm tired of the hustling. I'm so sick and tired of having nothing.
Jam, you got something to say?
But I have to say, I'll turn when you wait.
Yeah, I think it's good developing daddy-daughter relationships.